had a daughter that was born 2 days before I was arrested, and I'm facing the death penalty. And this little baby is sitting there kissing my fingers, and it just, I'm watching her, and I'm thinking, like, all this that I've done was for me. Never once have I ever thought that this life that I brought into the world would have to grow up and explain where her daddy's been or where her daddy's going to go. And when I seen that, it was like God just socked me all in the gut, and it just woke me up to where I'm saying, hey, if there is a God, show me. Show me. And I walked into court, and my lawyer had received a letter that they were no longer seeking the death penalty. And it just started the ball turning.
I guess compassion comes from finding a purpose for yourself. For me, that's what it was. It was seeing these kids on the streets going through the same thing that I went through for my journey here in prison. We try to reach out and stop those kids from trying to become us.
The personal transformation that I made isn't so much important to me as the transformation that we collectively are going to make.
God can use a life, no matter where that life is. The Creator has a better plan than we do. And Nelson Mandela changed the world from inside a prison cell. So, I think it's real important to understand the amount of power. We don't know who we're touching. And so I just feel like in some ways you guys are really on the leading edge of what we're talking about, because to be able to achieve what you're achieving, that spiritual domain, when the society would say, well, this would be the worst place, they couldn't do it here. But for you guys to be able to achieve it, I think it really opens a door and shows a good way forward.
When you spend a lot of your life going to funerals for people who have died in prison or who've died at the hands of each other, you begin to really get a sense of how precious life is. If people outside could see this, I think we might be a little bit more willing to forgive, to think about how we might make a bridge back home.
When the great world faiths were coming into being, all of them began initially with revulsion from violence. They tried to find new ways of controlling the rage and hatred in our hearts. And that is the kind of spirituality, I think, that is needed in our bitterly divided world.
All religions teach the basic principles of love and compassion. These are simple ideas, but they have shaped the most revolutionary events of our time. In the 1920s, a deeply religious man, Mohandas Gandhi, emerged as the strongest voice for Indian independence from British rule. Yet Gandhi did not call for an armed revolution. Instead, he urged Indians to use non-violent protest and peaceful resistance.
Mahatma Gandhi said, if you want to see change in the world, you have to be the change.
Gandhiji's entire philosophy was based on love. Love for your entire universe, for all life, for all people. So he never saw people as enemies. For him, the minute you use violence, then it's a spiral. Violence raises bitterness in your heart, and then you want to take revenge. You continue to kill people until everybody is dead, you know, because you cannot have violence and not have bitterness. He said that his life was his message, and I think that's the greatness of Gandhiji.
Once they asked Mahatma Gandhi, what is the most important quality in spirituality? And Mahatma Gandhi said, don't be coward. I think the most important quality that a man or a woman should have is to be brave.
The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. based the American civil rights movement on the teachings of the Hindu Mahatma Gandhi. The Baptist minister from Atlanta, Georgia, saw that love and respect could set black and white Americans free of their racist history.
Gandhi's understanding of Christianity was more relevant to me than the understanding of Christianity that I got from most U.S. Christians. And particularly the idea of loving your enemy. I'd never heard anybody in the U.S. Take that seriously, hardly. Love your enemy and bless those that persecute you. There weren't many people that were talking nonviolent social change. And there was still a tremendous amount of doubt. And I was skeptical. I didn't think nonviolence would work in the South. That America was too violent and too militarist to respond to this. Frederick Douglass said that the struggle for freedom is a struggle to save black men's bodies and white men's souls. Racism is a sickness. And you don't get angry with sick people, you help them and heal them. And healing was spiritual. And nonviolence then seemed to be a spiritual method of healing. And that was the first time I understood that religion had the capacity to change people. And if you can change people, you can change society.
The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community. The aftermath of nonviolence is redemption. We must come to the point of seeing that our ultimate aim is to live with all men as brothers and sisters under God and not be their enemies.
Martin used to say that life is about commitment to your own beliefs. And if you're committed to those beliefs and are willing to work hard, sacrifice, suffer, and be sensitive to the people who disagree with you, then there's almost nothing that can't be done.
In the 1940s, the minority white South African government introduced a rigid system of racial segregation called apartheid. Leaders of the religious opposition to apartheid believed that violent resistance would only create more hatred.
We used to say of our situation in South Africa that it looks so utterly hopeless. But we used to say to our people, this is a moral universe. Right and wrong matter. And there's no way, despite all appearances to the contrary, there's no way in which evil will have the last word. And we realized that the healing could ultimately actually happen only through those who were themselves
The people of South Africa decided that it wasn't enough to just end the violence. They needed to learn to forgive one another.
The only way you can appropriate forgiveness is by confessing. People are a glorious creation. Just as much as we have this extraordinary capacity for evil, so we have a remarkable capacity for good. Each one of us has the capacity to become a saint. Incredible. We follow the one who says, forgive one another as God in Christ forgave you. There is no situation anywhere in the world that is not transfigurable. There is nobody in the world who is beyond the pale. We are family. Some are light in complexion, others dark. Right around the world. And God's dream is that one day we will wake up to this fundamental truth about us.
The Chinese invasion of Tibet in 1951 drove the Dalai Lama into exile. Despite a lifetime outside of his own homeland, His Holiness has never abandoned his belief in non-violence, and he remains one of the most powerful voices for peaceful reconciliation today.
When we think of a person who create a lot of sort of sufferings in our own land, usually frustrations, angers, hatred usually come. So here very useful is it to make distinction